ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Comic Crypt, our month-long look at the best in horror comics out there on the market right now. And today is a rather interesting book. It's a book that I honestly wasn't going to talk about this year because it's only 2 issues in. And I feel like a series needs a few more issues than that in order for me to come in here and start recommending it. However, this is being written by James Tynion. And if there is anybody out there in the horror comic scene who has earned my trust, it's James Tynion. Mimetic, Cognetic, Eugenic, the whole Ick series. This guy has a long history of writing great horror stories that just legitimately freak me out. I have talked about Mimetic several times on this channel, but for anybody who has never heard me talk about it before, Mimetic was a series that was so scary. I was reading it on the train ride home from work when I first got it, and by the time that I finished the first chapter, I had to sit there and just remind myself, this is only a book. A thing I have not had to do since I was a child. It was one of those books that after I finished reading it, I actually stopped and thought, is this book going to like kill me in 7 days? Am I going to go insane and like look at myself in the mirror and just start cutting my face off like that guy in Poltergeist? Yeah, it was a book that, to say the least, definitely affected me. So I have talked about it, I've hyped it up several times on this channel. So anytime that James Tynion comes in here with a brand new series, I'm always excited about. And this is his latest series from Boom Comics called Something is Killing the Children, which is maybe the greatest title for a horror comic I have ever read in my life. It's got everything that you want right there in that title. It's got mystery, something, a threat is killing, and then a thing to be concerned for, a thing to be scared for, the children. Something is killing the children. I love that title so much because it's one of those titles that the moment that you look at it, you go, oh, well, I kind of need to find out the answer to this question. I need to figure out what the heck that something is. It kind of reminded me of those old Italian and Spanish horror films from the 1970s that whenever they imported them over, they would give them an entire sentence as their title. I don't think that's what he was going for, but yeah, it totally had that feeling to me. So yeah, just speaking as a horror fan with some nostalgia, I did kind of actually really enjoy just how weird and out there the title of this book was. By the way, I should also take this opportunity to apologize to everyone out there who clicked on this video, not realizing that you were going to hear someone talking about a comic book and instead thought that you were clicking to hear about some legitimate news story. It's fine, nothing is killing your children, just there was no way to talk about this book without giving the title of this video a super clickbaity title, so I apologize for that. Anyway, moving on to the actual book itself. What is this about? This series opens up with a group of friends all having a sleepover, and one of the friends is sharing a scary story. And he's talking about how he saw something out by the ravine, and his friends say, no, that's not real. Oh yeah? Let's go down to the ravine and check that out. Instantly smash cut to this kid is at the police sharing his story because all of his friends are dead and he is freaking out. But then you cut to a totally different location and you see some blonde woman, and she is with this young girl who has definitely had some horrendous things happen to her. And this woman, she's walking out of the woods and she's reporting to someone mysteriously on her phone, and it's very clear that she is going to be the person who knows something about the monsters. Every single scary story, you need that person who knows what you're up against. Then we cut back to the little kid and you start seeing them the next day at school. And this is something that I love about James Tynion's writing style when it comes to his horror. He is able to craft such believable characters, such realistic characters, and this is hands down the most realistic characters I have ever seen in a James Tynion book. There's a moment when the little kid is being yelled at by this boy at school because everyone is blaming this kid for the death of their friends. In fact, the entire town thinks that this kid did it. So that is what this kid has on his back. And this poor kid, you can tell he is just collapsing under the weight of the way that everyone looks at him and the way that everyone talks about him. But he gets sent to the principal's office, and that principal, although it might be the guidance counselor, I don't know if they exactly say in this book, but he's sent to go and talk to someone, And the person he is talking to is just the most human person I have read in any book this year. He's there for one page, but he's there and you can tell he cares about this kid. He does. He wants this kid to be all right, but he is also just done. He is done with that little bully who was yelling at this kid, and he is done with the way that everyone in this town acts. He is just exhausted. Everything that this kid is going through, this guy has a lifetime of that on his shoulders, and he's just out of it. But he still cares about this kid, and I love this interaction because you've got this authority figure, and you've got this scared little kid, and the authority figure is just talking to this kid like he's a human being. He's not coming in here, he's not sugarcoating anything, but he's also not lying to the kid. He's treating the kid with respect. He is treating this kid as another human being who is also going through some crap. And it's just like 1 or 2 pages of exchanges. But I love that moment in here. And that has nothing to do with the horror at all. It has nothing to do with anything in this series. It's just this little tiny moment that just speaks to how human the people in this book are. Except for the badass Huntress Lady. That is when she returns and she starts talking to this kid and she goes, listen, I know that you spoke to the cops. I know that you gave them a story. However, I've been around. I know that's not the whole story. I know you got more to tell, and it's okay. You can believe me, which I do like this exchange. I do like this exchange because up until this moment, this badass hunter lady, she had seemed like, you know, a Sarah Connor. She seemed like an Ellen Ripley. She seemed like a total badass. I go in there and I kill these monsters, and you get way more of that in the second issue. But in this moment, you can tell she hasn't been hardened by whatever it is that she has been forced to do in her life to the point where she can't connect with kids. And she has to know how to do that because as this series goes along, you see that whatever this thing is, the something, if you will, only kids can see it. It is a thing that only kids know about. So even though she is hardened over a lifetime of having to hunt these monsters down, she still has to, for her job, retain that one soft spot. That one spot in her heart for kids. That ability to connect with them. And you don't know if she legitimately feels that way, or if, as I said, it's just because her job requires her to be able to communicate with kids. She is still that much of a mystery figure. And I said that she was the exception to the these characters feel very human rule. Again, we're only 2 issues into this. So I am judging this right now at this point. We don't have her backstory. We don't know what she's been through. But at the moment, she does kind of feel like this action hero that got dropped into any town, USA. But again, you know that there is more to her. You absolutely know that there is going to be some big reveal, that there is some kind of a backstory to her, and that's very intriguing. I actually think that she is an excellent mystery figure to be put into this story early on. Although speaking of that character and how she is set aside from the other characters in this town, again, every single character looks so realistic. They look like regular average human beings, but she looks like a superhero. And I don't even mean in the way she dresses. She dresses like a normal person. But her hair is crafted in that exact right way to make her stand out. It's not a crazy design. It's not something that you look at and you just go like, oh, she feels like she came from a different book. It still looks like a way that a human could dress, but she just instantly has this tone to her design that sets her aside from everyone else in here. And that is something that is accomplished by the amazing art team of, and I apologize because I know I'm probably going to get these names wrong, but Werther Deladera and Miguel Muerto. The 2 of them are able to work so well together to just give this entire series and give this town and give every single character this big, dark, foreboding feeling. Like every single one of them just has this shadow just looming over them at all times. But this mystery woman from out of town, who by the way is named Erica Slaughter, so if you want to know how much she stands out from the other characters in here, how much she feels like she comes from an action series as opposed to the other characters in this book, her name is Erica Slaughter. But when it comes to her specifically, the colors are brighter on her, but not so much that she just pops off the page, but enough that you can't help but notice it. And the design of her hair and the way that she stands and the way that she looks, especially with the one eye that pokes out from behind her hair, it just makes her feel like she has just got 10 pounds of mystery and power behind a 5-pound bag. There is one panel in particular in the second issue, towards the end of the issue, where she is just staring down at something. And the expression in her eye, and the colors in her eye, and the lighting on her face, it all just comes together to make it feel like, okay, I know you're the good guy, but you feel more ominous than the villains in here. I absolutely love how this art team is able to establish stuff like that. Also, by the way, just gotta throw this out here, real small detail, the panel work in this series is on point. This is one of the few series out there where I actually had to stop and look at a page and kind of just marvel at what they were doing with the panels. I know it's a very small thing to geek out over, but just the layout of every single panel, ooh, it just kind of sent shivers down my spine. It was one of those things that just made you feel like, okay, they have a pacing established to this series that is setting up this mysterious tone. The pacing of how these panels are laid out, it makes it feel like things are kind of speeding up, or they're kind of just floating along, like waiting for something to happen. It is a very small thing that not a lot of books are able to accomplish, but when they need the panels to express something, they're able to make them do that just from how they're paced out. But yes, as I said, I didn't really know if I wanted to talk about this book just yet because we are only on the second issue. I'm really just doing this because the first two issues, they are just so darn good, but also because, well, hey man, James Tynion, he has earned that free pass. If he has a new book coming out, I'm kind of going to trust him on it. And I know a lot of people out there might not have read his horror stuff before, but you've definitely read his DC stuff. He's doing Justice League Dark, he did Detective Comics for a while. He's going to be the new writer over on Batman, which I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but yeah, man, he should absolutely be the new writer on Batman. James Tynion being put on Batman is like Donny Cates being put on Thor. Both of them have basically been auditioning for the roles for the past 5 years, so I can't wait to see what he ends up doing on that series. But this series, so far, it is just a mystery, and it's just setting up characters. But that's the other thing that has me so intrigued by this book. Every single character that appears in here, you look at them, and you realize they're going to be back. They're going to have importance. They're going to mean something to the series. Like I said, the principal in issue number 1, not in issue number 2. But he had so much going for him in that one little exchange. You know he's going to come back. You know there's going to be that moment where we see what he has seen in this story. We're going to see his own backstory. We're going to see what his home life is like. And I can't wait to do that because he was able to set up so much in just that one little exchange. Or in the second issue, we meet the brother of one of the kids who was mysteriously killed by whatever this thing is, by the somethings, if you will. And he wasn't in the first issue. He didn't have any importance to the first issue. We didn't even know that he existed in the first issue. But when he drops on the scene, he comes in there and just immediately makes himself known. I say that like he burst onto the scene and just goes in there and goes, I'm the one who's going to take out these monsters. No, not like that. He is just another guy living in this sad little town, sad about what happened, terrified about the fate of his sibling who went missing. But you know, from how much we get of that character, from his interactions with the other characters in here, he is going to be a major part of this story. There is one small character, a waiter at a restaurant that our characters go to in the second issue, who I just looked at and went, okay, they're probably not going to be a huge role, but they might be, because I know how James Tynion works. I know that he will introduce a character who you will look at and go, yeah, okay, they're not anything really big, and then you get their backstory, and then you start to see the different sides of them, and then you realize, no, they actually are kind of a huge deal. So I wouldn't be shocked if that character comes back around. And again, James Tynion is able to make you feel the depth of characters in just the little tiny exchanges. I love how he is able to just set up a world that feels like it is full of fleshed out real people, all interacting and living their own lives in just the matter of a few issues. And when he is able to do that, and then throw in there the dark, ominous, mysterious creatures that he is a master of crafting, yeah, you got me hooked. You have me wanting to keep reading. I mean, really, I only had one complaint about these first two issues, which is that in issue number 2, I felt like I wasn't really getting enough. Like, we got introduced to some new characters in there, and I could tell that these new characters were going to be a big deal. but I felt like there was still too much of a mystery. Like we didn't learn enough from issue number 1 to issue number 2. The mystery didn't deepen, but we also didn't get any answers to anything. The mystery just kind of felt like it remained at the exact same level. And then in the final 2 pages, a brand new element got introduced. I just went, oh, one critique that I had with this issue, gone. Everything's resolved now. So yes, as I said, James Tynion, he has indeed proven himself enough times for me to trust him on this book. I have seen the things in this book already that I know I loved from his previous series. Not things like specific story elements, not things like specific characters that I can look at and go, oh, well, this is like this character from this book, or this monster is like this thing from this book, or this particular saying is like this thing from this book. No, but the talent, the way that he crafts a story, the way that he sets up characters, the way that he's able to establish depth with these characters, just through minor bits of dialogue. That's the stuff that I love about him, and I can instantly see that already in this series. So yeah, I'm here for the ride. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Something is Killing the Children, which I am required by law to say the title of this book in that tone every single time that I talk about. Although I will admit, this wasn't so much my thoughts about the book, but more me just gushing over the talent of James Tynion. So if you have picked up the first 2 issues of Something is Killing the Children, I told you I had to say it like that, then let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. If you've read some of James Tynion's other horror series out there, let me know what you thought about them in the comments down below as well. And you can always contact me on Twitter or Twitch. Let me know your thoughts there at Professor Thorgy. And if you want to see some of our other spooky videos that we're doing all month long, make sure that you click that subscribe button and ring that bell so that way you don't miss any of them. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and happy Halloween.